Lamar Jackson has been the topic of conversation all year in Baltimore for multiple different reasons, and a legendary Baltimore Ravens coach had some very interesting comments on the star quarterback.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. Appreciate everybody for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day. And thank you to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage here on Locked On Ravens, and a jam-packed show today here on this Purple Friday as Brian Billick, a legendary Baltimore Ravens coach, had some interesting comments about Lamar Jackson. We'll dive into that. Plus, the Ravens got good Lamar Jackson news on Thursday at practice, and Lamar actually commented on his situation. Then we'll get into a Ravens and Patriots preview for that Week 16 primetime matchup. Don't turn your TVs on at 1. Gabe's not going to be there. It got moved. Make sure you're there at 8:20 and you're not looking at your TV at 1 p.m. like, where's the game? Where's the game? It's not going to be there. So we'll have a lot to talk about here on the show. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Here with me from the Ravens Talk podcast and the Locked On Ravens Squad Show, it is Sam Njoku. And Sam, easiest path to the Ravens? Winning, you're in. Win your last 3 games. You control your destiny. There are other paths that they can take that involve meaningless games at points or weird tiebreaker situations. But you know what, Sam? What sounds good to me? Keep it simple. Just win your games, get in the dance, and go into the playoffs with some momentum.
It's better to win than to lose in all aspects. I agree with you. Win out. Don't put the onus on the Steelers to lose a game. Don't put the onus on anyone else to give you a chance to win the championship. Go out there and get it. Go out there and earn it. So Ravens got to win out. That's the name of the game. That's what the Ravens are thinking. That's how they're motivating themselves moving forward. And I'm all about that. Get the job done, win those games, get into the dance.
Yeah, tough opponents as well. So if they are able to win those 3 games and ride into the playoffs on a nice little 4-game win streak, you're battle tested, I'd say, which is very good because, you know, it's always good to have that momentum heading into the postseason, although the Ravens have won Super Bowls before, having been abysmal in their final month of the season. So everything resets in the postseason, which I think so many people are excited about because the record is 0-0, and all it's do or die, 1 game at a time, which obviously adds to the stress as well when you're a fan of this Baltimore Ravens team. But you know, I'd rather be in the dance and stressing than not be in the dance and not stress at all. So there's a lot that goes in with Lamar Jackson. Obviously, it's going to come down to him. Also, it's not all on him, though. A lot of other guys have to step up. But Brian Billick, he was on the Be More Sports podcast. Jerry Coleman, Mike Preston, and Brian Billick had some interesting comments on Lamar Jackson. And Sam, one of the biggest conversation points about Lamar all year has been his injury status. Obviously, missed the month with the hamstring injury. He's been getting beat up in a lot of these games, taking a lot of hard hits this year. And we've seen him on the injury report for seemingly every body part in the book, especially on his leg. You got knee, you got ankle, you got the toe and the foot. You know, now with the illness, and we'll get into a little bit in the second part of the show, Lamar's missed some practice time, and that's been a big storyline as well. But Brian Billick talked about Lamar a little bit and said for the Ravens, he said, quote, "It still comes down to Lamar. He's clearly not what he was in the past from the standpoint of that leg. You never really get over a hamstring in the season, so he's clearly favoring that a little bit. I don't mean he's pulling back, but he's not opened it up where the Ravens have so relied on those 4 and 5 and 20 and 30-yard runs. They may get that back in the playoffs, but they're playing good enough defense and running the ball that are going to size up well with anybody they want to play." And we know, Sam, the Ravens, like those Lamar Jackson design runs, just really haven't been a part of what they've been doing for the majority of this season. And I do think Lamar has looked better to me over the last 3 weeks. Like every week, it looks like he feels a little more comfortable and just looks a little bit closer to being back to that 100% healthy Lamar Jackson. But as we know, Sam, Lamar, I do not believe is 100% healthy. And there's nobody in the league right now that is 100% healthy. I wish actually I'd seen these comments to talk about him with Q on the squad show with you and I and him to get his expertise on the movement aspect of things. But we do know that like hamstring injury, soft tissue stuff, like there are multiple types of injuries that just, you know, you can play on them, but you're just not totally right in that aspect until you have like multiple months of rest and like real recovery, where during the season you're trying to get back, help your team. And again, while Lamar is healthy enough to play in these games, it is safe to wonder still, just like, how good is he feeling? Lamar says he's feeling good, but like, how good is he feeling truly compared to what we know he can be at 100% Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope that he does get healthier. I mean, who can argue with Brian Billick in the notion that he has been dealing with the leg injury? I know Lamar has done his best to downplay the situation. The Ravens have done a good job of downplaying the situation. But the fact of the matter is, he's not who he was last season, or even at the beginning of the season. And there's only one reason for that, and that is because he continues to find himself on the injury report for, as you mentioned, toe, foot, leg, knee, whatever it is, and now an illness to boot. So, yeah, he needs to hopefully get better. Again, as Brian Billick mentioned, the good thing about this team right now is just in the nick of time, this defense is starting to get into form, find their rhythm. Running the football has become more effective. They're more efficient at it. They can lean on them more than anything else. And who knows? Hey, if the Ravens get the job done against the Patriots and Lions take care of business against the Steelers, you got a Week 17 matchup where you can rest your boy Lamar, at least for the week, get that leg nice and ready for a prime time showdown with the Steelers and potentially a run in the postseason.
All right, well, now I have to ask you the question, because I asked the same thing to Q, and he did not let – I had to kind of talk him into, hey, what about a preseason type flow from a couple of years ago where maybe a quarter, maybe a half against the Packers? So, again, the scenario we're talking about is a schedule quirk where if the Ravens beat the Patriots and Lions beat the Steelers, that Week 17 game, yes, would be meaningless for the Ravens, and they wouldn't have to win or lose. Then it would all set up the Week 18 winner-take-all game. So, yes, that's what we're talking about, just for context clarification. What are you doing, Sam? What if that scenario happens? I mean, the rest would be valuable for a lot of guys, but you also don't want to have the rust show up at the worst time in a do-or-die, win-or-go-home situation against Pittsburgh. So from your comments, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're leaning with some rest, but what do you have? What do you have on it?
If he is as injured as we are to assume he is, then it will be to the utmost benefit of the Ravens to sit him for that game, especially Lamar Jackson. I mean, it'll be a bye for all intents and purposes. And the Ravens will love a bye. I know fans talk about, you want to go into the postseason on fire. You don't want to lose a rhythm. And I get that. And there is some credence to that. We've seen time and time again after a bye, the Ravens start off slow whenever they get into that divisional round of the postseason, whoever they're facing. Doesn't matter if it's the Bills, doesn't matter if it's, the Texans, whoever it is, they do start off slow. So there is something to that. But the Lamar Jackson that we've seen in the past is not the Lamar Jackson that we're seeing now. And there's a chance to get him back by giving him a week of rest. I mean, you got to take it. Now, if he isn't as injured as people will lead to believe, and, he's just dealing with it and no amount of rest is going to change anything, well, then I see the path where you maybe playing for a quarter or two, get into some rhythm, don't risk injury, don't do anything, no plays that will risk him getting hit, and then take him out of there, put in Snoop, and then finish off the game against the Packers, wherever it may be. Yeah, you could do something like that, maybe keep some rhythm that way. But again, if he's injured, if he's really favoring that leg to the point where you have to keep him out of Wednesday practices every single week, then it benefits you to get into that situation and rest the guy. Don't have to rest everybody, but certainly the guys who are banged up, guys like Calvin Noy dealing with the quad injury, Roquan Smith dealing with that knee injury, popping up on the injury report every now and then. Those guys you can give about some rest and get ready for a huge showdown where you have to win against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, a very controversial conversation within the Ravens fan base right now with the rest versus rust, because we have seen it pop up multiple times, yes, over the course of Lamar Jackson era. But going back to Lamar and kind of the lack of designed runs and some of the stuff that they haven't done as much this season, would you expect a little bit more of an uptick in those, Sam, depending on – obviously, it depends on game flow and kind of how defenses give them looks. But, that is a part of the offense that is, at the very least, guys have to follow Lamar Jackson and take account for him while the run game, whether it's Henry, Mitchell, or whatnot, they can take that football and have to deal with maybe one or two less people because they have to worry about Lamar Jackson on those designed runs, or at least on the option plays. So ideally, when everything is all on their P's and Q's and everything's hitting all cylinders, you do have a couple more of those per game.
Yeah, you definitely want to get that going. They did some of that against the Bengals last week. So I am starting to see a little bit more trust in the leg from Lamar where he's able to keep it and go down. Is he having the success, keeping it as he did in the past? Not necessarily, but that fear is being put on the defense. You saw early on in that contest against the Bengals. The Bengals didn't really play a lot of spy. They really didn't trust that Lamar Jackson would keep it. Once that started happening, it changed the entire dynamic of what the Ravens were able to do on the ground. You saw Derrick Henry have more success. Keaton Mitchell have more success. So it is all about Lamar Jackson, what he's able to do. So making sure he's healthy enough to do it is one part of it, and if he is healthy enough against a Patriots team upcoming that isn't really that great against the run, could see yourself in a situation where you have a little more keeping with the football from Lamar Jackson. And then we talked about it, get some rest on the following week against the Packers, and then you're really feeling the juice to go ahead and pull it all out on the field with Lamar Jackson in those next weeks ahead.
Now, Brian Billick was also asked about how he just feels about Lamar in general, and he said, quote, "Fabulous." We overuse the word because there's very few players in the league that are unique, but he is that. Just like a Patrick Mahomes is unique, Lamar, he just does it. Obviously, the athleticism, the ability to change the game with his legs. He's a good enough thrower to beat you down the field. He's not the prototypical pocket passer, and he's not necessarily going to beat you from the pocket, but in conjunction with his ability to run around, that forces you to build the 8-man box that gives him the man coverage. He can make those throws. It's a tough combination. Kind of talked about a comparison with Barry Sanders back when he was in Minnesota, had to play him twice a year. And then he said, quote, "He truly is a unique player that I hope the Ravens fans can appreciate because we've had a long litany of the other. Don't miss this opportunity to recognize how lucky you are to watch a player of this caliber." So I do think personally, Sam, Lamar can beat you from the pocket. I think that obviously with what Lamar brings to the table, teams don't want him roaming around outside of it because it makes him so dangerous because of the ability to pull the ball in and run or find a guy to throw the ball to. But I mean, if Lamar has protection, he's proven like he can sit back there and just kind of dot up his reads, go through his progressions. Like we've seen him do that. But I think when people talk about like, oh, the key to the game is keeping Lamar in the pocket, it's kind of just like a tale of two evils where it's like, if you keep him in the pocket, he's going to dice you up. If you let him outside the pocket, well, that is probably worse because he can just set his feet and throw, where he can run the ball, he can throw on the move and make a crazy play. Like at least in the pocket, there are less devastating options for a defense, but that doesn't mean there aren't devastating options for the defense when that happens. So it's kind of just like a pick your poison type of mentality there. But what are your thoughts on Billick's comments there? Because I do think Lamar's a unique player, and there's so much about him that does make him.
Yeah, I agree with everything Billick said to a point. I think that, Lamar Jackson's the most dynamic player I've ever witnessed as a fan of the game, as someone who analyzes and studies the game. I think that speaks for itself. I think Lamar Jackson is a pocket passer. He can be a pocket passer. Teams have found out through various games, through various seasons, go ahead and keep him in the pocket if you want to. He is going to dice you up. You better have the corners and safeties back there to complement whatever it is you're trying to do as far as containing Lamar Jackson. How do you beat Lamar Jackson? You sack Lamar Jackson. That's how you beat him. You've seen teams have success, get him into the ground this season. That's the only way you beat Lamar. You got to get him to the ground because as long as he's upright, he's a danger. He's a threat to dice any defense up. So I don't know if you want to do that if you're the Patriots or the Steelers or whoever is upcoming. Keep him in the pocket, sure. I mean, go ahead and do that. But as long as Lamar is upright, as long as that offensive line is giving him time to make those throws, he will for sure deliver. You saw that strike in the corner of the end zone to Zay Flowers. That is all you need to know about what type of passer Lamar Jackson can be in the pocket if you give him time. He didn't even really have time in that play. Daniel Valletta almost cost him that touchdown there. But even so, Lamar Jackson still makes plays.
Yeah, he's an unbelievable player, and I think he is a generational. And that's another word people throw around a lot, but truly, Lamar is a generational type of player within the history of the National Football League. Coming up, we'll talk about Lamar's injury situation as well as the rest of Baltimore's injuries, as well as what Lamar had to say about what's going on with him, the offense, and a lot more. Stay tuned. Plenty coming up on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Gametime. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Gametime app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. Pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. And the seat view feature is a game changer. You literally see what the pitch looks like from your exact seat before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Gametime. Back here, Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher, Sam Njoku, still rocking out with you here on this Purple Friday edition of the show. Thanks for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day. Again, that 5 days a week plus more a day. The Ravens coverage is right here on Locked On Ravens. We have the regular show Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. We also do bonus episodes on the weekend when there are headlines to talk about. We have watch-alongs during the games. We have instant reactions after the games and after pieces of big news. And also, we have the Locked On Ravens Squad show. Sam is a part of that with me and former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail. So we'll have that after the game as well as on Wednesdays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time there. And also, if you want more content, you can check out the Everydayer Club down in the link. If you want to support the show a little more, that's in the description below. But Sam, let's talk about Lamar Jackson. The Ravens got good news with Lamar. He was back out there on that football field. And again, those Wednesday practices that he misses, I'm like, all right, let's just wait till Thursday. Just hope it all gets better. And that is what happened. Lamar Jackson was a full participant in practice. He returned. Now, John Jenkins was a new addition to the injury report with an illness. He didn't participate on Thursday. So hopefully something's not going around within the facility right now. Hopefully everybody's okay. Other injuries. The bad news is that Chidobe Awuzie did not practice for the second straight day. That'd be a big loss for the defense. And other than that, you have a lot of good news. Stanley return limited. Van Noy return limited. You have Linderbaum, who actually was limited with a knee injury, so that was something to monitor. Jay Higgins limited. You have Rashad Bateman practicing in full for 2 straight days. So I'd say more good than bad for the most part here for the Ravens. Obviously, headlined by Lamar being out there. Now, he said he was all good, and that's generally Lamar's thing, where he'll return to practice, speak to the media, and he'll say everything's all good. But he said that he was all right, and he was asked if it was frustrating dealing with all this different stuff with the injuries and the illness. And he said it was just another rest day for him. So, I mean, it's something that he's become accustomed to. I believe Lamar hasn't had a full week of practice since the Minnesota week back in week 10, if I'm not mistaken there. And, he said he's not doing anything when he's sick. And at this point, it feels like this is the new norm for Lamar, which is fine. Lamar's talked about missing practices and said that, the rest is beneficial and it helps him. And look, if the rest is beneficial, then that's great. Feels like he's kind of tired about talking about it all, though. It feels like he's kind of over it and wants to just move on and talk about football, which we'll get to. But it's at least good that Lamar was back out there and, practicing with his guys.
Yeah, I mean, if he started talking about it, maybe he should practice on Wednesday because you're going to start quarterback. That's not going to change. Anytime you miss practice, there's going to be a shell shock to your system, even though we expect it every week. It's just, what is it this time? Oh, now it's an illness, not even a leg injury. Does that mean his leg injury is healed? So that's just part of the process, being the star QB. I get it. Lamar Jackson doesn't want to talk about it, but it's going to be a topic of conversation as long as he continues to not practice. Now, it being beneficial to him, yeah, the Ravens are still winning football games with him missing practices on Wednesday. Do you think he'll be better on the football field if he got those extra reps? Possibly, but the risk of injury is too great. We saw what happened to Patrick Mahomes, who was dealing with the knee injury throughout the season and ended up tearing his LCL, his ACL as well. So you don't want to be in a situation where you're harming yourself or risking further injury. The Ravens have no shot of winning the Super Bowl without Lamar Jackson. And that word Super Bowl is a crazy thing to say for a 7-7 football team, but that's the type of conference they're in. That's the type of team we're starting to see this Ravens ball club as they continue to stack together wins.
Yeah, and, I'm never going to blame anybody for being injured, being sick. Like, if you got to miss practice, you got to miss practice, but it will be a storyline, and that's something people will be talking about. So, just continuously hoping Lamar is able to be as healthy as possible for the remainder of this season and hopefully for a long playoff run. But Lamar did talk a little bit about the slow starts and some of the stuff that's happened with the offense recently. And he said it basically comes down to inconsistency. He said he can't necessarily call it, but he thought they did better against the Bengals, and the Bengals offense had a long drive, so they couldn't get on the field. So it does come down to game flow here, but Lamar praised the defense a lot. He, again, doubled down on the fact that he couldn't call it, but he wants to start fast and finish off those things faster as well, which is good. Talked about the connection with his guys like Zay Flowers. He wants to connect with everybody like D-Hop, Bateman, Tez Walker, etc. I think Lamar's feeling good about the offense, but we know Sam Lamar's a perfectionist and he wants every single thing to be good, every single thing. And we know the offense hasn't been good enough in certain aspects, which I'm sure does not make Lamar Jackson very happy. And he wants to get those things all sewn up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't call it, I certainly can. It's the offensive line. I mean, they're not giving him any time in the pocket to make any throws. They're not giving any running lanes for Derrick Henry. We talked about this in September, so nothing new here, but it's certainly the reason for the season. Now, the Ravens have done a good job of finding ways to have success running the football and throwing the football without, having superb play from the interior of the offensive line, which continues to be an issue and will continue to be an issue until the offseason. So, I get it. I think the Ravens are, they're too talented not to put up 30-plus points on the board every single week, which is what I'm sure Lamar Jackson is thinking. They're 7 points away, 6 points away from hitting that 30 mark. They're going to face off against these teams, and this defense cannot continue to hold teams under 30 throughout the postseason. So there's going to be a time where they're going to need to lean on the offense to save the day, and they're still waiting for that. They really haven't seen that since prior to the Lamar Jackson injury. Maybe you saw a snippet of that against the Dolphins, but they are the Dolphins, so not much to be said about that. So the Ravens will need to do what they need to do to get ready, get more play out of their running game, and they might not be able to lean on their running game. Mike Vrabel isn't afraid to load the box if they think that the running game is going to be that. So it's going to be up to Lamar Jackson to possibly throw the football extensively in order to get the W against the Patriots.
And DeAndre Hopkins was very open and honest after the Cincinnati game and his comments about his role on the team and playing with Lamar Jackson. And all it was a really cool set of answers about how, he wants to win, wants to play with somebody we consider as a friend off the field. And Lamar was asked at the end about if he wants to get D-Hop more involved. And he said in the past, the answer is yes. And he said that, again, the answer is yes. And he talked about his catch radius and the contested catch ability and getting to more opportunities. So is this the week, Sam, that D-Hop maybe becomes a focal point, or maybe not a focal point, but a bigger focal point than what we've seen? Feels like Rashad Bateman's going to return, so some of those snaps might not be up for grabs anymore. It feels like D-Hop has a role, but it hasn't been very big this year.
Yeah, it's not going to be the type of role that maybe Lamar would hope or that fans would hope. I mean, if Rashad Bateman's injured and he's not getting those, targets, then it's certainly not going to be the case now that Rashad Bateman is back. So until this offensive line learns to give Lamar Jackson time in the pocket so that he can go through his reads, go through his progressions, so he doesn't have to run for his life after the first read isn't there, then maybe we can see DeAndre Hopkins having more targets his way. But as far as plays designated for DeAndre Hopkins, I don't see that. Unfortunately, because I think Hopkins early on in the year, before all of this shenanigans went down, was looking really good. I mean, every catch that he had was a touchdown. He was doing whatever he could to keep drives alive. So he's definitely a big part about this offense. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens try and bring him back for another season after they figure out some things with this offense. But unfortunately for this year, it looks like it's going to be hard to get guys the football if your name's not Zay Flowers or Derrick Henry. It just seems like it's those two guys, and Lamar Jackson doing whatever he can to extend plays. That's just going to be what's going to have to do for this team to, have success, at least in the later portions of this year.
And we've seen so many things on Lamar in so many different aspects. And one of the things that we saw in that game against Cincinnati was him checking into that Rasheen Ali, essentially like little short dump off touchdown play where the pressure comes. It was essentially exactly the same as what happened with Jaylen Warren a couple weeks ago, where there was you Ravens bringing that pressure. Harbaugh said there were blown assignments on that play. I'm not sure if Zach Taylor said that about the Bengals play, but even so, Lamar sees that, checks into it, and throws a touchdown. I mean, we know Lamar, ever since Todd Monken's come in, like he has freedoms within this offense that he just flat out did not have with Greg Roman. We've seen him orchestrate drives and 2-minute drills, and with that freedom that he has gotten, really orchestrated like the ability, the feel for the game. And I think that was on display, not just on that play, but like we've seen that from Lamar over the course of this season, which I think has gotten swept under. Like a lot of the positives Lamar has done has been swept under the rug by two things: by the injuries he suffered and by the bad stretch he had for a month. And I'm not saying you should just say, oh, that never happened. It did. Like those things have happened and they've impacted Lamar or contributed to stuff for the team this season. But what have you seen from him in terms of game flow, game situation, and just analyzing the game? I think that Rasheen Ali play is like the big poster everybody's talking about, but I think that there have been little things he's been doing as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an improvement. I thought that in the middle of the season, once he came back, he was so concerned with his leg. At least this is my assumption, that he was missing out on, not just his mechanics as far as, planting on his feet, using his toes to kind of point to where he wants to throw the football. His pre-snap recognition was off. It didn't seem like he was trying to communicate at the line. I think he was still focused on making sure that he was healthy and ready to run if he had to. Everything seemed off. But the last couple of weeks, you've seen a complete change back to what he looked like back in as soon as 2024. He just looked like that guy. And then that play where Rasheen Ali was pretty much, in my opinion, the poster, a display of, okay, Lamar's back. And I think that's why fans should be excited about what this team could do, because you see this guy understanding what the defenses are doing. We all know the zero blitz, cover zero. Everyone's so, gung-ho about that, and Lamar can do to combat that. You saw him, okay, these guys got 8 guys on the line. All right, well, you're going to leak out, and you're going to be there to catch the ball and maybe do some damage if the opportunity presents itself. He didn't look flustered. He didn't look nervous. He understood what the defense was doing, and they let him pay.
I think the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, there are some ways that they can beat this Patriots team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Coming up, we'll dive into that. We'll talk about how the Ravens can win the game. We'll do a little Ravens and Patriots preview for that big primetime matchup. Stay tuned. Plenty coming your way on Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports. Bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once, and while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. PrizePicks is adding an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. You can choose from a huge range of unique stats: fantasy score, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your strategy. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher, Sam Njoku still here with you. Purple Friday. It's a couple days out from a huge Week 16 matchup between the Ravens and the Patriots. Again, appreciate everybody for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day with our 5 days a week plus more daily Ravens coverage. Sam, first thoughts, Ravens versus Patriots. 2 teams that have something to play for in different ways. Ravens are obviously trying to secure a playoff spot. Patriots, with that loss to the Bills, that snapped their 10-game win streak, and now they have to fight for the number 1 seed, fight for their division, which if they had beaten the Bills would have been a lot easier to do so. Both these teams have something to play for, and I think it's going to make for a pretty intense game.
It certainly is, and luckily it is in Baltimore. The Ravens haven't had very much success in M&T Bank Stadium this year, which is an insane thing to say considering all of the success this Ravens team has had in the past. But they are going to host a Patriots team that fell to their rival, and the Buffalo Bills had a chance to secure the division, secure the 1 seed. That falls by the wayside. They have an opportunity to kind of gain some of that headway back against the Ravens. But yeah, this is going to be a huge contest. I think if you ask me who needs it more, certainly the Ravens do, especially because they'll know the outcome of that Lions-Steelers game prior to that game, which may put some more anxiety, some more pressure on the team to get the job done. But the Ravens certainly have that pressure, and hopefully they ring the bell and answer that call, because that Patriots team, they only have 3 losses, and they're looking to make a name for themselves as well.
That Patriots team also, as many have noted, undefeated on the road, which, you do have to factor in as well. That's the big stat there. Patriots have been road warriors this season, which to me is the focus of that. And so it's a Ravens team, like you said, hasn't been as powerful at home as we've seen in recent seasons. And also in primetime, the reaction to the Ravens being placed in primetime 2 times in a row was not, yeah, Ravens been so, it was, no, please, this has been so bad in primetime this year. Please don't have the Ravens embarrass us in front of everybody again. So you don't want to have that. But I've kind of called this jokingly the Battle of the Titans from the Ravens offense and the Patriots defense perspective, where the Ravens are the 2nd worst red zone offense in the NFL, converting on just 44% of their opportunities in that area. The Patriots, though, are the worst 32nd red zone defense in the NFL, giving up a touchdown on 75% of the time when an opposing offense gets down there. So something has to give. It's the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. Patriots defense has been reeling bad, particularly in the run game since Milton Williams went down, who, if you listen to our episode with Locked On Patriots host Nick Cattles yesterday, Nick called Milton Williams the Drake May of the defense, second best player on the team. So it's a big loss for the Patriots, and obviously the Ravens are dealing with injury situations of their own, but red zone field goals are not going to cut it in this game with two very high potential explosive offenses.
Nope, not at all. I don't want to see it. I love Tyler Loop, and I love Steve Loop, a friend of the Locked On Ravens Squad show. Don't want to see Tyler Loop out there unless he's kicking extra points. You're absolutely right. The Ravens' offensive struggles in the red zone are duly noted. This is the opportunity to turn it around against a red zone defense that is the worst in football, literally the worst. So I think the Ravens have a good shot to get it done here. I'm starting to see kind of bits and pieces of, impressive things from this unit in the red zone as well. The one play that really irks me is that touchdown grab by Isaiah Likely in against the Pittsburgh Steelers should have been a touchdown. Wasn't a touchdown, but it's things like that. You're starting to see them score in the red zone. Starting to feel comfortable with them doing it. Maybe they don't run the football effectively in the red zone as much as they used to, but I still have more faith in Lamar Jackson now that he's starting to get a little healthier than he was right after that bye. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident about it. The Ravens have got to do it, though. They have to show it out there, because if they don't, this could be a long day. As you mentioned, Drake May and that offense is no joke.
No, not at all. And with what the Patriots have done this season, this is the second best passing offense in the league, and led by Stephon Diggs, who has kind of gone a little bit downhill over the course as the year has gone on, but still he's almost at 750 receiving yards. You also have to worry about guys like Hunter Henry out there. They have a cut, but it's not like these, oh, we know these guys by name outside of Stephon Diggs. It's kind of guys who, you're kind of wondering, oh, that guy makes a play. Who's number, whatever on the Patriots. But Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson, as you so admitted on the squad show, Sam, with your fantasy team. I know you've been watching them closely, so let's get your analysis on those two guys. And this Ravens run defense, they've been pretty good in my opinion, and they really haven't been outside of the first 6 weeks of the season, they've turned it around to be the 15th rated rushing defense in the NFL. What's your take on the Patriots rushing attack versus the Ravens run defense with those two guys at the helm for New England?
This is the game. I think this is going to be the game right here. The running attack of New England versus the Ravens run defense. Now, it's very good that they got Tavius Robinson back, because he can set the edge for this team, something that, teams struggle with, especially with, Henderson doing what he does, bouncing from one side of the field to the other. If he doesn't see an opening, he has that speed. He has that vision to do it. So the Ravens defense needs to be able to follow your assignment. Don't over pursue. If there's an opportunity, don't fall for the play action, because they're going to run the football. You're going to go after Drake May, and all of a sudden you got Henderson going up the field. When you get to the goal line, it's Ramondre Stevenson time. He's a bulldozer. He'll run through you and get into the end zone, no problem. So this rushing attack, even though this passing attack has been impressive, it's because they've had so much success on the run game that they've allowed Drake May to have opportunities to dice up the secondary once that run defense has been tested and bruised up. So the run defense has got to be there, because if it is, it puts more pressure on Drake May, and I'm not sure he's ready for a defense that can get after you. I will say this, Drake May is very good against the blitz. The Ravens need to do what they did against Cincinnati, use the front four to gain pressure. When you don't blitz him, he has, one of the pedestrian numbers, but he's still pretty good as a passer. But when you blitz him, oh boy, those numbers shoot up. I think he's number 2 in the league in terms of passing the football when he's dealing with the blitz. So the Ravens need to find pressure, sending 4 guys, doing it that way. If you get that pressure, could be a great day for you. But if you need the blitz, Drake May can make you play.
Watching Drake May as a runner, yeah, it's going to be big too, where he's averaging 4.3 yards per attempt, which isn't like anything overworldly or anything, but still has 85 carries on the season. That's an aspect of his game you do have to wonder about as well. So, force Drake May to make tough decisions. We know the Ravens, like you kind of alluded to there, Sam, they have been stingy against younger rookie second-year quarterbacks because of how complex the defense is. So that is a big key. It's just make Drake May uncomfortable, make him make some tough throws, and make him make some hard decisions. And hopefully the Ravens can force a turnover or two, which has been really beneficial to their entire team when they've been able to do that. But Sam, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for hopping on. Before I get you out of here, tell people where they can find you and what you're working on.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Ravens Talk Podcast. We're talking Ravens football all the time. So make sure you tune in for that. You can also find me on the Locked On Ravens Squad show with my boy Kevin and Kadri Ismail talking Ravens football. Our next show will be after the Ravens Patriots game, where I predict the Ravens get the victory, by the way. So hopefully the Ravens do make my prediction come to fruition, and we're having happy thoughts on this late Sunday night, Monday morning, talking Ravens football.
I love it. I love it. Let's do it. Ravens win. Get
Please.
that dub. And hey, maybe if, like we talked about, the Steelers lose, maybe some rest in the future. That could be a possibility. So be sure to go check out Sam, support everything he has going on. Links will be in the description down below. Thank you again, Sam, for popping on. And thank you to everybody who listened, watched today to Locked On Ravens. We'll maybe have a bonus episode tomorrow, depending on what the headlines are. There are usually a lot of headlines, so that is a possibility. But we will also be back on Sunday with our pregame episode, our watch-along, our instant reaction, and, of course, the squad show. So be sure to stay tuned for all the Ravens coverage here on Locked On Ravens. I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.